Hello there. Thanks for tuning in to Pounds to Kilos TV. My name's Ed, and I very much appreciate your support in watching this first episode. If you have any feedback for me or anything you'd like to offer up, I'm all ears. This show is for the community, and I want it to be driven by the community. Enjoy episode 1. G'day folks, and welcome to the first edition of Pounds to Kilos. I'm your host, Ed Morrison. As promised, this show is going to be focusing on the local CrossFit community. Well, somewhat local. Let's call it Australia, New Zealand, and at times the Pacific Regional, or what used to be known as the Pacific Regional, so including parts of Asia. Today, for the first show, what I thought I'd do is have a look at the female side of competition post-2019 CrossFit Games Open. I'm going to break it down today by the Australian leaderboard and the New Zealand leaderboard. We're going to have a look at who's currently got a qualifying spot to the Games, who looks like they might get a qualifying spot to the Games, and where our hopefuls or previous Games athletes sort of sit where things are standing right now. So why don't we just kick things straight off. Let's have a look at our top 10 females on the Australian leaderboard at the end of 5 weeks of the Open. Starting in 10th spot, we have Tara Jenkins, who's competed in team a number of times for CrossFit Moorabbin, but she has jumped the leaderboard up to 10th from 31st last year. Carly Menzies is next in 9th spot. She's a regional stalwart. We've seen her many years before. Madeline Stewart, of course, she's already got a ticket to the CrossFit Games. We'll talk about that in a moment. Renee Hoffman had a great Open. She's finished in 7th, as has Rochelle Steinberg. Rochelle Steinberg's such an impressive athlete at regionals level. Then we've got Justine Beef and Jess Coughlin tying for 4th. Obviously, previous CrossFit Games athletes from yesteryear. Beef in 16 and 18 and Coughlin in 17. And then we've got Courtney Haley in 3rd place, who just goes from strength to strength. In 2nd place, we've got Kaitlyn van Zeile, formerly known as Caitlin Marks. And then in 1st place, no surprises there, tia-clair. So obviously there's one key omission, and that of course is Cara Saunders, who is currently pregnant. She is in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, in fact, so she won't be competing at the 2019 CrossFit Games. That leaves somewhat of a hole in the leaderboard of not only the Australian leaderboard, but the worldwide leaderboard, and even just the CrossFit Games podium. Saunders has featured highly in the top 10 of the CrossFit Games in recent years. Obviously, her best year was 2017, where she finished 2nd, notoriously only by a matter of seconds to tia-clair. Well, let's talk about our previous Games athletes and where things are shaping up for them this season. So let's start off by talking about some previous Games competitors that we've seen from Australia before. Justine Beef. She's been to the Games twice, 2016 and 2018. Didn't really work out on either occasion. When I say that, if you've got to the CrossFit Games, it's kind of worked out. But for Justine, she finished in 38th spot both times. In 2018, she was eliminated after the OBS course for not meeting the minimum work requirement. So, as I said, didn't quite go according to plan. She is an excellent regionals level athlete. Every time she goes to regionals, she places in the top 10 or just outside it. So what's she capable of this year? Well, there was a chance she wasn't even going to enter the Open. We saw some social media posts that she put up, and maybe I shouldn't say that she wasn't going to enter the Open, but perhaps she wasn't going to make a run at a sanctionals or the Games. Then at 19.2, she threw down with 5 other CrossFit Games athletes, and she absolutely demolished the field. So she's definitely in fit enough, or she's in good enough condition to make a run at the Games. She's been putting her attention to other places at the moment, such as her affiliate, but she still finished 4th in the Worldwide Open for Australia. Let's have a look at some of her stats. And what you guys can see is that worldwide, she's finishing in a very impressive 58th position. So remember, the top 20 go straight to the game. And she's a 6 times regionals athlete, so she's going to feel really comfortable at the Down Under Championships. Look, could Justine go back to the Games? From here, she'd have to win the Down Under Championships. Certainly not beyond her, but it would be a big ask. So I don't know if we'll see Justine at the 2019 Games, but what a fantastic Open she had, all things considered, that we didn't know if we'd even see her in the competition scene again. So well done, Justine. Another athlete that needs to be considered is Courtney Haley. Courtney Haley, of course, went to the CrossFit Games for the first time last year after narrowly missing out in 2016 and 2017, finishing 7th both time at the regionals. So What's Courtney Haley capable of this year? Well, if the Open is anything to go by, she's in red hot form. She had her best Open yet. Let's just have a look at the stats. Since Courtney has been on the competition scene, it's been a very systematic climbing of the leaderboard. She's climbed from 17th to 3rd in Australia from 2018 to 19. And then on a worldwide ranking, she's jumped a massive, well, you do the maths on that, but it's 313th that she finished in 2018. She's in 41st position. So she was only a few spots outside qualifying through the CrossFit Games in the Open. Okay, let's talk about the surprise packet of the Open, Kaitlyn van Zeile. I don't think many people saw this coming, her finishing in 2nd position. She's had regionals experience, and if you're wondering, I haven't heard of this person before, Kaitlyn van Zeile, formerly known as Caitlin Marks. Now, she was on the Reebok CrossFit Frankston team at the ACC, the Australian CrossFit Championships, where they took 2nd place to Project X. So she's certainly a seasoned competitor. She's been out on that regionals floor before as an individual, and then, like I said, she's done sanctionals competition in a team. Does she have what it takes to take out the DUCC and qualify through the CrossFit Games there? Well, if you look at her regionals results from 2018, you can actually see where her strengths and weaknesses lie. Now, has she addressed these? The Open would suggest that she has. However, from 2018 regionals, she finished very high in the 333 and the long chipper. So, it's obvious, she's got an engine, a really, really good engine. And she showed that in 19.1 with the wall balls and the rowing. So where's her issue? Well, last year at regionals, she didn't do so well at Linda, and she also struggled in the last event, which was a heavy thruster and a rope climb. Admittedly, at that point of the weekend, everybody was struggling with that barbell, but she didn't finish that event. So we're gonna see her struggle potentially with this heavy events at the DUCC. But as I said, it looks like she's tidied that stuff up because she did really well in the Open, all the Open workouts this year, including week 2 with the heavy cleans. So let's talk about 2 CrossFit Games athletes that have already qualified for the 2019 CrossFit Games. Of course, I'm referring to Madi Stewart and tia-clair. Now, Madi finished 2nd in the Australian CrossFit Championships. Now, 1st place was occupied by Sam Briggs, but she's already got an invite from the Dubai Fitness Champs, so that passed down to Madi. I'm a massive fan of Madi Stewart. She's really well coached by her partner, Shane Ormerod, and she's so calm for somebody so young. She's been the youngest competitor at the CrossFit Games the last 3 years, and last year, boy oh boy did she rock the boat. She finished in 20th position after sort of quiet or what you call moderate performances in 2016, 2017. Let's have a look at Madi's Open, and admittedly, it wasn't her best Open yet. She was a few spots down from 2018, but naturally, when you've already sewn up a spot to the CrossFit Games, I guess that's what you can expect. Also, she released on social media that she was dealing with some personal stuff. Her mum wasn't well. That was released the day before 19.2, and then she came along and did the live announcement and still performed really well. So she's got an excellent head on her shoulders. I think there's no reason that we won't see her progress this year at the CrossFit Games. In saying that, I'm careful of putting pressure on people like that because typically we see them get to that top 20 in one year and then the next year they fall back out sometimes. So I would love to see her get closer to sort of a top 10 spot, but I'm also realistic that she's young. If the events don't go her way, she might find herself going backwards this year. But all signs so far are pretty good. We're still a few months away from the CrossFit Games, and I'll be following her progress really closely. We'll keep an eye on her together on this show. Okay, let's talk about the big one, tia-clair. Well, I don't think it's a matter of, is she going to do well at the CrossFit Games? We know she is. The real question that I think needs to be answered is this. If tia-clair wins this year's CrossFit Games, is she the greatest CrossFitter of all time? And I'm going to say that she is, on the female side, obviously. You could probably mount a case that she is already. She's finished first twice and second twice. Nobody else sort of boasts that. We've had 2 other first place getters, Katrin Davis' daughter and Annie Thora's daughter. But before we get stuck into that question, how about we just have a look at Tia's season? Now, she did exceptionally well in this year's Open, considering she already had qualified through the Wodapalooza Sanctional. In fact, if you remove 19.1 from the equation, Tia actually finished second in the 2019 CrossFit Games Open. Now, I know you can't just remove workouts, that's sort of beyond the point, but that workout there threw the leaderboard off a fair bit, I'm sure you'll agree, because 19.1 had a lot of people who aren't regionals or games athletes scoring really, really well in it, just because it was low skill, high capacity. A lot of names we'd never seen were sort of up the top of the leaderboard. She was in absolutely red hot nick at the 19.5 announcement, and really the only person that I could see her taking her down on that particular day was Matt Fraser, who happened to be the one that she was competing against. So look, we're going to see and hear a lot more from Tia between now and the games. She's competing in the Rogue Invitational, which is the same weekend as the Down Under Championships. At the moment, I don't see anyone touching her. I just don't. Laura Horvath has had what you call not the greatest off season. She was going to compete in Dubai and then she ended up getting injured. So I don't really feel like anyone is in her class. In saying that, Sarah Sigmundsdottir has had an excellent Open. She won the CrossFit Open, obviously, and she already qualified herself through a sanctional competition. So I sort of see Sigmundsdottir as the biggest threat right now. But honestly, like I said, she's in a class of her own, Tia, and we'll keep track of her very closely over the course of this show until the CrossFit Games. Let's have a look at the New Zealand side of things. So Jamie Green, who's a previous CrossFit Games competitor and been very high up in the CrossFit Games, finishing in top 10 on multiple years, she's going team this year. So she's doing Team Romwad. Now, before I told you that Tia would have come second in the Open if it wasn't for 19.1. Well, do you know who she would have come second to? Jamie Green. If 19.1 was removed, Jamie Green wins the CrossFit Games Open. So she's also in absolutely tip-top shape, but the reality is she didn't even need to be because she's already qualified. Of course, their team, Romwad, qualified at the Wadapalooza Fitness Fest. There was a little bit of, not controversy, but obviously a lot of people there were watching to see how CrossFit Mayhem would do. Mayhem finished 5th, and they were blown away by Team Romwad. So Green is obviously raring to go, and she was the national champion for New Zealand. So I guess the controversy, well, it's not really controversy again, but the reality is this: that national champion spot, it can't be passed down. So Green would have been the person going for New Zealand, but now she's not going. She's going in team. Now, it would have passed down to the second person, who is Harriet Roberts. And Harriet Roberts is going in a team in Project X. So the top two female place getters for New Zealand are both going team, which is not ideal because New Zealand have a rich history of having strong representation at the CrossFit Games, considering how big their population is. And you could say that about any sport with the Kiwis. They're just so competitive in all the sports that they do. Now, the third female is Gemma Root. So Gemma has also been going team before in regionals competitions. She's done individual as well. Will she go team at the Down Under Championships, or will we see her compete individually? If New Zealand want to have a female representative at this year's CrossFit Games, she's going to have to win the Down Under Championship or another sanctional event. Let's have a look at who else is on the New Zealand leaderboard. And as you can see, there's a three-way tie for 4th between Marnie Sykes, Megan Signal and Jamie Goodwin, who are all regional stalwarts. In 7th place is Emma Wright, and then another three-way tie between Palmer, Tawai and Schelling. Alethea Boone is in 11th place. All right, folks, that's all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed this short review of the CrossFit Games Open for both the Australian and the New Zealand women. In the next episode, I'll be having a look at the men and also previewing the Down Under Championship and who we might see there. Until then, keep converting those pounds to kilos.